Good morning, this is Rob from GRAF. In this week's video, Peter talks about some sectors that are worth getting involved in Africa and what to avoid. He talks about the pitfalls of the political involvement in the food system in Africa, especially when prices rise incredibly high. You make it sound very difficult, but you always hear these headline figures. Oh, a frozen Brazilian chicken sells for $10 in the DRC and wheat at $450 a ton. Surely it's easy to make money at those sorts of income prices.
Yeah, so you often hear those numbers, and the wheat price, yes, in Central Africa, because of the logistical cost and the price of wheat presently, the import parity is that price is true. But the trouble is that when those prices get high, the politicals get involved either in controlling prices internally or getting involved in the importation of the, for instance, frozen chickens, or the classical one is eggs. I think when in the early 2000s, I was involved with egg production in Zambia, and everyone said the DRC, the price of eggs is nearly $1 an egg. But when you actually went to try and market or get into that market, it was impossible to penetrate because it was totally controlled by politicals and other vested interests. The same with chicken, imported chicken. You know, the price of chicken was one price, but you go and try and produce it there, and things became very, very difficult. There is no doubt that there is some margins to be made, but I would personally avoid crops that are food crops in Africa because they're far too political. There's always political involvement. Egg production, poultry production, I think that does still offer opportunities. Pig production, I think it all offers opportunity, but then disease is a huge, huge challenge.
Yeah. Are the opportunities in the more technically difficult livestock production?
Definitely the more technically difficult. And they have got their challenges, and the challenges are just not knowledge. The challenges are the environment around, as I say, disease challenges, things like that.
And what about technical horticulture, stuff like that? Is that all for export, or are you up against the locals there? Is that a bad move?
For the local market, it is amazing that the locals can generally speak. Obviously, there's always opportunity in some niche markets, for instance, say in Tanzania, supplying the top-level hotels or safari parks, but they're very limited markets. I mean, if you're really talking about big business, then you're talking about exports. Of course, nowadays, from the golden days of horticulture, people were put in planes and it was fairly cheap, but now everyone works about the carbon footprint. And to be honest, a lot of those horticultural businesses survived on startup cheap money and getting more money, but the actual model itself was not that strong. Wasn't that strong. I mean, you send a load of vegetables to Europe and then it's rejected. It doesn't take many rejections to write a whole year's profit.
There's often there's that conflict between an export model where you're getting hard currency and producing for the domestic market, which is easier and perhaps higher prices. What's your answer to that?
Well, the biggest problem is your source of funding. So if you're getting hard currency, which most times to try and avoid the inflation, people try to look at hard currency crops, to loans first of all, then you need hard currency crops to pay it off. And Zambia is maybe slightly unique in that, although the commodities in Kwacha, they're based in US dollars and have stuck like that. But in many of the countries you go into in Africa, you think the currency is stable and you get a hard currency loan, then the local currency runs. And if you're only supplying the local market, that's the end of your business. So if you're getting offshore loans, you have to ensure that you're going to get offshore currencies paid for. So that may dictate your business model.